Hi, my name is Taylor Silva. I am the young adult librarian at the Fall River Public Library. And for a special pop culture podcast, some of my coworkers and I wanted to talk about spooky movies that scared us as kids in the spirit of Halloween. We hope you enjoy and have a happy and safe Halloween.
David Moquin. I'm an assistant librarian in the children's room here at the library. We're going to do the movies that scared us as children first.
The spooky movies
Okay.
that we watched
Right.
that we probably shouldn't have watched as kids.
Right.
So, David, what is your spooky children's movie? Well, the spooky movie you watched as a kid.
So, being a good Catholic boy, there were two movies that scared the hell out of me as a child. And the first one I should not have been watching. The Exorcist, which came out in 1973.
And how old were you? Now, did you see it? Did you watch it in '73?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I watched it on cable with my brothers.
So how old were you?
That's a good question. I didn't think you were going to ask me that.
I know, I'm sorry.
So, let's see.
You can't do the math.
No.
Yeah.
I was probably 11 or 12.
You were 11 or okay.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
probably
That's
not
a
a movie that I should have been watching.
That's a little early.
However,
You were 11 or 12? No, really?
yeah, it came out in 1973.
Okay.
I was born in 66. And
Okay.
it was on cable. It was my brother Mark. I shared a room with my brother Mark, who was the biggest horror fan of all time. He loved Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason. There were posters all over the wall of all these people. You know, he loved them all. And over time, kids being slapped to bits did nothing for me.
You would
I didn't jump at all. This one here, this scared me.
Scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even after I saw the Saturday Night Live skit with Richard Pryor. If I remember that with the bed flying all over the place. That, and of course the Tubular Bells.
Oh, yes.
Whenever
yes.
that came on, I just froze. And my brother Mark, he loves all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he just laughs hysterically, seeing me, But yeah, when they were playing with the Ouija board and, the mother and the whole bit. So that's one that sticks in my mind.
Okay. The Exorcist.
And
The
that's one of the
Exorcist.
ones on my list too, Dave.
Okay.
And for me, what made that all the more frightening was knowing that it was based on an actual incident, supposedly, And just knowing that little bit of information made the movie all that much more frightening because as I was watching it, and I saw it when it first came out, that was always in the back of my head. It was like, this is real?
Right.
This is this happened? This really happened? And that made it all the more frightening.
Because I went to Catholic school, surrounded by the nuns and the priests,
Yeah.
and seeing Max von Sydow come out of the fog,
Oh, yeah.
that just did it for me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. I
Yeah.
realized that it was based on a real thing and blah, blah, blah. In fact, all three of the movies that scared the hell out of me were real
based
incidents.
on
Right,
real
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
What was the other?
the second one from my childhood was Amityville Horror. Yeah.
And how do you remember how old you were when you watched that? And how did you watch? How did you watch that? You were
that
too young
one
for
I
that.
was 14.
Okay.
Okay, and my brother Mark again convinced me
I'm seeing a pattern.
this is going to be a great movie. You got to see it. Blah blah blah. I read the book. Blah blah blah. It's a real thing. This house is real. I'm like, okay. So he talked to my mother. I remember going to Showcase Cinema in Seacon. My mother dropped us all off, which my littler brothers should never have been in this movie. And I'm inside. I'm a quivering mess because I really don't want to see this movie. But Mark convinced me, so we're all in there watching the movie. And when I see the glowing red eyes out the window, and he's poking me, that's a pig. That's a flying demonic pig. And the little girl, and I'm saying to myself, what the hell is he talking about? And then seeing, I That night I had nightmares. Yeah, I was not happy.
So actually, what made the movie frightening was your brother being with you in the movie.
Right, exactly. And he loved all those. He loved all those little tidbits. But I loved the Margot Kidder and James Brolin were fantastic as the fan. And then when you find out that the guy had murdered his family a year before in the house, and then the walls dripping blood and everything.
And then after that, you could never see a house with those windows on the side without thinking that house has got to be haunted.
Yeah, because you see the face and you see, the fire in the.
I had the pleasure in the early '80s. This is the only time I ever skipped school. Was in the late '70s. I want to say, early '80s. Ed and Lorraine Warren had given a lecture.
I wanted you to talk about
had
that.
given a lecture at BCC, and it was great. That not too many people showed up. I'd say there was about 30 people in the audience, and that was one of the stories, of course, that they were asked about. How close was it? And according to them, that there were some of the things. Of course, the movie makers took a lot of liberties with the movie, but they felt that it captured the essence of it. But then again, they mentioned some parts that were not. That they dealt with that were not included in the movie or the book at all. And with what they shared with us in the audience, they were some of the most frightening things as well. As a matter of fact, I went home that night and I wasn't able to sleep. But I found it very fascinating.
Well, the other thing I enjoyed about that movie, too, was James Brolin, that they said he looked just like the kid.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes.
Is that something that they had mentioned?
I don't recall. That was a long time ago, but I do recall the actual photographs of that. I cannot think of the
he had a funny name.
DeFeo.
Yeah.
Of his, but yes, he bore a strong resemblance to the character.
Yeah, that was another weird. I was like, okay, what is this all about? And then, he kept chopping the wood, and then of course you're saying, he's gonna do the same thing.
Right, exactly, and you see the children in the house, and you know what happened to the children prior that lived there, and that's part of the intense fear is the same thing going to happen to these poor kids.
And then at the end, where he falls through the stairs and the blood, and and he saves the dog, and everything's a-okay.
And he shouldn't, they're driving away, and you feel that sense of relief, and then he decides to go back, and of course, you should never go back. This man never saw a horror movie.
Right. So. But then again, and then that was the other thing too that I loved a few years later with Poltergeist, where at the very end, here they do,
when
they go into the little Holiday Inn hotel room, and he pushed the TV out of the balcony.
Oh, that was a great,
the same
great
it was like Spielberg's homage to Amityville Horror.
Right, yeah.
Well,
even before that, even prior, you think everything's all taken care of after the medium leaves, and she's dyeing her hair and relaxing in the tub, and then literally all hell breaks out.
So, you mentioned The Conjuring. That is the one that scared me as an adult.
Oh, hands down.
Because, it wasn't the first one. First one didn't bother me.
Second one.
It was the second one. And I put my notations here. The ones that recently, Get Out, Us. Jordan Peele has become the new Hitchcock. But Conjuring Part 2, for some reason, especially at the beginning, when they went to investigate the Amityville Horror. Do you remember the
I don't remember. I don't think I saw the second one.
The second one?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, they're investigating that house, and then she sees the nun, this creepy nun, which has now become a running.
Oh, I did see it. Something with the painting on the wall. Right. That whole with that
and
scene.
She sees Ed being skewered.
See, I don't remember that part. I don't know where I was, but yeah.
Because then they wind up in London, and you think that's going to actually happen, and it did. That movie made me jump a couple of times, and I was like, I don't like this. I prefer the slashing, because my brother desensitized me to all these crazy movies. I had no issues with them. But this one here, because, again, it was real.
Yes.
And, good Catholic boy.
The Catholic upbringing that you got.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the one that really scared me.
When it freaks you out.
Yeah, because it was 2016, so it was...
Yeah. I remember... Thankfully, I didn't see The Conjuring 2 in theater. I watched it when it came out, and yeah, never. I don't think I ever watched it ever again. No, I can't. I couldn't do it. Like, it's icky. It's icky to me.
Oh my God.
I'm a baby. Like, it's that idea of being scared.
But
I love it.
The ones that make you jump.
Yeah.
Don't you want to go back and get that? Now that you've jumped, you want to. Think you'll recapture it?
Sometimes. Yeah, I don't.
Well, if someone goes with him and holds his hand.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
Like, when you said you didn't remember the part in Conjuring 2, I don't know where
Oh, that's
I
the
was.
part
You were hiding under the covers.
I had, I did see the movie now, but that's the standout part for me
Right.
was that
Right.
that whole scene when she first goes into the room.
Yeah.
It was very original for one thing. I don't recall ever seeing anything like that prior in movies, and it was just so creepy the way it was so subtle, and it was the sense of foreboding was great.
That did make me jump.
Yeah.
And so we went to see that in Montreal. We were visiting Montreal,
Yeah.
2016, and I was with Keith, and he watches all these movies with me. He falls asleep during that one. But he knows, he looks
Smart
at me.
man.
I don't blink an eye. I don't blink an eye. It could be the most horrendous thing,
Yeah,
blood
yeah,
splattering
yes.
all over the place, and okay, Mark has already,
He took care of that.
Yeah.
yeah. So he never. And during that movie, I actually did. I jumped a couple of times, and he's looking at me like, "What?
For real?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right." So he knew that one. That one stuck with me. So I like those movies.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
No, ever since I was a kid.
Did you? I think the last movie that I saw that truly freaked me out. I was a little late. Hereditary.
Oh yes, that
Have you
one.
seen that movie?
Hereditary.
Tony Collette,
Yeah.
and the kids, the two.
Who was the director? Asher.
Yeah, because he directed.
He just did
the one that came out,
Midsommar,
Midsommar, yeah.
all that movie. So with these, I want to call it ghost movies and exorcism movies.
That one, yeah. You don't want to give anything away.
The thing with those kinds of movies is, and what makes it really scary to me, is that idea that you're watching something that you shouldn't be watching. Like when it gets to the family stuff. Family stuff freaks me out, and it's that idea of you're like this is really, really, really icky. Like you're watching this whole family disintegrate in front of you,
Right.
and you want to just turn it off and say okay, that's their business. I don't need this.
Right.
Yeah, and that director, he brings to mind the Wicker Man, the old British, the real creepy ones. That you
Right,
don't know
right.
What the heck
Oh,
is
yeah.
gonna happen.
That sense of dread.
Yes.
Right.
Immediately,
Yeah.
you're like,
I don't
you're-
want to be here anymore.
Yeah, that's I don't want
That one especially, I'm
Yeah,
watching
I
it.
don't like-
I have to say I didn't see Hereditary. I'll have
you
to.
gotta
Yeah.
check that
I'll
one
have to
out.
check that one out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's freakish. It really is. But what else freaked you out?
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to
David Mello.
when I was a kid. David Mello, and I'm the supervisor of children's services here at the library. Now, the movie that freaked me out when I was a kid, I have no problem recollecting it. It's a little known, well, probably not all that little known, but not a big budget film. It was The Brain That Wouldn't Die from 1963. And you won't recognize any of the actors or actresses that performed in it. But it scared me out of my mind when I was a child. I did not see it in the movies. I remember seeing it at home. And I was at home alone, watching it on the television. And I don't know where my older brother was, but he wasn't watching it with me. And I was home with my grandmother, who would take care of us when my parents were out, and they were out on this occasion. And the gist of the movie is and it's a black and white old B horror film. And the gist of the film is that there's this world-famous surgeon whose specialty is transplants. He's in a car accident, and his fiance is decapitated. And he wraps up the head and takes the head home. And no one says anything about the missing head. I guess when the police arrive, no one's looking for a head. But he takes his head home, and he manages, with his unique, skills, to keep the head alive on a petri dish with all these tubes running into it, and the head can speak, and it speaks in this really creepy, eerie voice. And that was one of the frightening aspects of it, just seeing this head, this living head in this dish with all these tubes and wires come to life. And her personality just changes, of course, when I guess you're dead and they bring you back. You're not in a very good mood anymore, especially if you have no limbs. So here's the story. She's the surgeon. He's still desperately in love with her, even though she's just a head there in the petri dish, all wrapped up with bandages, and he's searching for a body for her. Mm-hmm. And he's going to all these strip clubs and nightclubs and looking for just the right body for her, for his fiance. And he finally finds this girl who is a model. She's an artist model, but her thing is her face is scarred, but she has a perfect body. So this is like a perfect match. And so one of the aspects of the film is to lure her back to his lab and cut her head off and do a replacement job with his fiance's head. But one of the most frightening aspects of the film that stands out is in the laboratory, there is this door that keeps behind the door. He keeps behind the door one of his failed experiments. And one of his assistants, of course, is always the creepy assistant. And this particular assistant has a withered arm. And he's in charge of feeding this creature behind the door that we never really see. We only hear it growl and hiss, and you just know it's something terrible. And that's what terrified me. Yeah. It was the whole idea, what they say, what you don't see in a movie can scare you the most. Well, this petrified me. Hearing that snarling, seeing this man feed the creature through that hole in the door, and then finally at the end, I'll spare you the whole film, but at the end, for the climax, oh my goodness, the head taunts the assistant to put his hand in the little doorway, and so he does, to show that he's brave. And he's also very stupid, because it grabs a hold of his arm. And when that thing snatches his arm and he's struggling, it's his withered arm, by the way, he is screaming and everything. And then the door comes off the hinges while the man is still on the other side of the door. And we see the creature on the other side. And by this time, I was hiding behind my father's rocking chair screaming. My grandmother said to me, "If you don't stop yelling, I'm going to come out there and shut that TV off myself." And I kept on saying, no. But I had to see what was going to happen next. And then you see this really cheesy monster. The actor must have been like 6'7", and he had one eye on his forehead, and he had a head like an egg. But it was just an incredible scene, and it was terrifying to me as a child, and that lingered in my... It still lingers in the back of my head to this very day. So I highly recommend The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And it's a cheesy movie, but it's very entertaining, and there's a lot of fun things in it, arms being torn off, horrible monsters, and disembodied heads. So highly recommended. One eye. Oh, yes, there he is right there. Oh. Isn't that horrendous?
That's pretty...
Can you imagine being like an 8 or 9-year-old child and seeing that crash
scary.
Through a door?
Yeah, probably at that age, but he kind of looks like Sloth from the Goonies.
Yes, I'm sure. There was definitely a homage. Years later, when I did see the Goonies, that creature immediately came to my mind. Look at that. You can get him in a model form.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, Christmas is right around the corner, David.
I do have to agree with Dave. The movie that did scare me as an adult was The Exorcist. And again, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's simply because you knew, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I did go to catechism, and the fear of the devil was pummeled into me. And and just the idea that your soul could be, your body could be taken over by a horrendous entity, and you have no control over it. It was frightening, and especially at the time. I remember, I would say for myself, in 1973, at however old I was, you had no idea what an exorcist was. You never heard about exorcism. This was completely new. And so I think that the newness of it made it, I think now, today, we're so used to hearing it.
That's what I was just going to say, was that there's been so many of them now.
It was like,
and the others are not as scary.
No, and they don't hold up as well. And it's like, this is something that they perform in the Catholic Church, and and I remember also at the time what helped support the idea of it being frightening is with the popularity of the movie, there were all these documentaries coming out on it, and then everyone was thinking they were possessed by something or other, and exorcisms were on the rise, actually, And but just the idea that something out there could take over your body and your frame of mind, and it was a frightening thought. And the imagery at the time, the twirling head and Dick Smith's memorable makeup,
her head
that was
flying around and all the
and just the spewing and
the crab walk up the
right.
That was another one.
And then when I saw it re-released for the 25th anniversary in 2000, the addition of those subliminal cuts they did of that ghostly face, that the devil, the demon or whatever, that scared me when I saw it again.
And then my cousins, at that point, we went to New Jersey, and my cousins actually had a Ouija board, and I wanted to be part of that.
I don't blame you.
You knew better.
Yeah.
All I kept thinking about was Captain Howdy or whatever. Was that what
Captain Howdy? That was the spirit in the board. Yes, and one thing that goes that's so overlooked. We remember, the fantastic performances by Max von Sydow, of course, and Linda Blair, and all the others. But someone we overlook is the voice of the demon, Mercedes McCambridge. Who was just did a tremendous job. She was 50% of the characterization right there.
Yeah.
And people often overlook it. As a matter of fact, if I understand correctly, Linda Blair could not be nominated for an Academy Award. She was but because it came out that she was only part of the acting. It was Mercedes McCambridge that was the voice.
That's
it's a little tidbit I had come across not all that long ago, actually. Yeah, but yes. And one other one I want to throw out there, and is a movie I saw it in the cinema downtown, Cinema 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was that? I can't think of the proprietor of the did the stories for the Herald News for years and years. Who ran
McAvoy.
it? Yeah, John McAvoy. Yes, his theater.
That was his. I didn't know that either.
Oh yes, that was his theater. Yes, yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Was a movie I saw there. I saw it when it first came out in 1973. I remember I saw it upstairs as well. I loved the upstairs. It was like stadium seating before stadium seating ever came to be.
Yeah.
Was The Legend of Hell House with Clive Revill and Pamela Franklin and, of course, Roddy McDowall. I was spooked out by that movie. To me, to this day, it remains my favorite haunted house film. They're all trapped there on a Christmas Eve. They're there with the job of investigating the house and either proving or disproving the existence of an afterlife. It's been sponsored by this billionaire who's close to death, and he wants to know if there is an afterlife. So a medium, a scientist, a couple of mediums, Roddy McDowall being one of them. They're there and there to either prove or disprove the existence of an afterlife. And supposedly, the house that is picked is the Belasco house, who is which is credited as being the Mount Everest of haunted houses, of course, Hell House. And it is over the course, I think, of just 3 nights that they are there that the movie takes place. It is all within the house, and the house is as much a character, and the sense of foreboding and atmosphere is as big a character as any of the actors that are there. And, no big special effects, really. A couple of things here and there, but it is just characterization and the unraveling of the individuals in the house that makes it a fun ride. And to this day, it remains, and a very original ending, too. Unexpected and original ending that, it's just kind of unique. But some frightening parts in it, and some good performances, and to this day, my favorite haunted house film, hands down. So The Legend of Hell House is big for me.
See, and on that note, my favorite werewolf picture is An American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
And that was another one that I saw downtown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love the American Werewolf in London too. And of course, groundbreaking special effects at the time. And I remember my favorite part in that. There were some good scary parts in it,
It had a great bit of humor through it.
Yeah. Yes, right.
I
That
think
dark
it
humor.
was
That
John Landis, the director.
Transformed
his buddy that was torn apart every time he's coming back. He's
Yeah.
decomposing more and more and more. Yes.
And I think that's why.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
That was one of those. I don't want to say it was the first movie that I saw too young, but I remember when I say that I'm part of the generation where there was pre-internet and then the internet becomes a thing and then we're engrossed in it. I remember how I learned about the transformation sequence when I think his name is David in the movie too. Yeah. When he transforms for the first time, and it's just horrific transformation where it's like, oh wow, wouldn't it be cool if you were a werewolf? No, it wouldn't be. That would suck. And I remember just reading about this transformation and being like, oh, that's awful. And the only thing in the description says, it was like something along the lines of, David painfully transforms into a werewolf.
And it was painful.
Like,
and it's like, oh wow, that could be awful. And then when YouTube started to become more and more popular in like the mid to late 2000s, it's like, oh, I can watch these things in only these particular parts whenever I want.
Yeah.
Great. And I watched it, and it turned my stomach. I don't think I could finish it until like later on in the day. I had to like psych myself up to watch it. And then,
oh yeah, you need someone to hold your hand throughout these movies.
I'm a big baby, but I like. It's that weird. I like being scared.
Yeah.
But I hate knowing.
Yeah.
I hate knowing that I'm going to be scared.
Yeah, and that was great. No one had ever seen a transformation like that in movies.
Right.
We were always used to Lon Chaney Jr. And the gradual application of makeup and hair and all that. That was completely unique. Yeah. And then for the next 5 to 10 years, everybody had to have a transformation like that in a werewolf movie. The howling, crunching sound.
The howling. That was
and then you actually saw the hair coming out of the hands. It was like, how do they do that? It was. It was amazing, yeah.
And he won the Academy Award.
Yeah, he won the Academy Award, yeah.
So, being as you're so, I shouldn't say.
Don't say it. No, go ahead.
You're so young.
Call me out.
What is your favorite scary movie?
My favorite, like
the one that really
movie that freaked me out. So that's a two-parter. So the first thing that I distinctly remember being afraid of. Oh my God. However old I was, maybe 4 or 5, watching, it's the stupidest thing, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. When Snow White's running, it's towards the beginning of the movie, when she gets lost in the woods, and the trees have those scary faces. I remember, for whatever reason, that struck me as the scariest thing ever when I was a kid.
I can't even remember that
Oh,
sequence.
Yeah,
They flash for like a second, and I think that might have been why it was so scary, because they don't linger. It's just like boom, there it is, boom, there's another, and she's just running, and she's scared. So this viewer, I'm scared. But that's like the first thing that I distinctly remember being afraid of.
Well, I'm going to embarrass myself even further on this podcast by admitting to something. Since you're going way back,
Ooh,
I
wait for
probably
this.
the first thing on television that I was ever frightened of, and just listening to you now go back that far in your childhood, it was for me. It was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the stop motion animation.
Why?
And it was the first time that the Abominable Snowman came out. I can remember and taking refuge again behind my father's rocking chair, and I was afraid of the Bumble. Yeah. I don't know how old I was, but I had to have been really small.
Really?
Yes.
We weren't-
Really, yes.
We weren't. Don't even know how to say it. But we weren't mentally scarred by a sibling that scared the scared out of us.
Yeah, but those puppets were not scary at all.
Well, I
mean,
don't know
they're
how
scary-
old I
they're
was,
scary
but
for
I know I
different
was young,
reasons.
so I'll use that as my defense. I was very small.
Well,
So.
okay.
But
You've since conquered that fear.
Yes, last year I managed
Yeah.
to watch it, and
We'll see if
I
you
was
can
not
survive.
running behind the rocking chair.
we'll
yes.
see if you survive this year.
Yeah.
But the first.
This year I think I can do it without my wife holding my hand.
Oh,
Yes.
terrific.
It'll be fun.
We'll give you your blankie just to be on the safe side. But the first movie that I remember watching by myself and being like, whoa, this is something different, was it was on TV.
Mhm.
You know what I'm going to say?
Well,
I've told you in the past.
I think
The Fly, the 1986.
Oh, you did mention. I remember
with
you saying
Jeff
that once.
Goldblum.
Yes.
I remember I was in middle school, and it was on TV. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel. I remember getting home from school. Neither of my parents were home. I turned it on, and I would turn on the TV, and I would do homework, and just have something in the background. And I'm like, oh, okay, this spooky movie, because they I don't know if they still do it, every day, and like in the afternoon and at night would be a different movie throughout October.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular day or night was The Fly, and I remember just being like, oh, okay, so he's in Jurassic Park. Okay, I know him.
Yeah, he
And-
plays the dinosaurs.
Yeah, he
he's
plays
a
the
nice guy.
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
He won't be horrifically mutilated in any possible way, and oh my god, body horror is that's my kryptonite.
but that
Yeah.
one there,
Yeah,
I wasn't scared. I was more grossed out.
grossed out.
I was grossed out.
Because,
Yes.
the-
Especially the scene, the body horror you're mentioning.
yeah.
If by body horror you mean people's limbs being melted by
Yes.
regurgitated
Yes.
acid.
Yes.
Yes, that got me. I was like, oh my God! You see
Ghastly.
it? Yeah, just melting his limbs and one limb after another. It was like, oh my God! He's going to have to learn to write with his left hand now. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
The
that was
the
horror.
devil's hand.
yeah.
And then another one that we have to give a shout out to is the first Alien,
Oh my goodness! Yes.
because that's one that I really shouldn't have seen in the theater either.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
I
yeah.
remember, the whole crew of us, we had to go to see that movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing. It's funny how you remember the movies that had an effect on you where you saw them, and that was in Seekonk, and that was very rare that we went all the way to Seekonk, and that was the theater at the time, the big screen, and oh my goodness, yes, that was just absolutely, because you never saw a monster like that.
No,
That was just completely out of left field.
but it was one thing after another. When it was
Right.
bursting out of the chest, and then,
Yeah.
I was only 12 or 13, and Yeah. They dragged me along to that.
Oh, yeah. No, that
yeah.
was...
Oh, yeah. This is the Jaws of space movies. We
Right,
have
yes.
to see this, you know.
That's
Yeah,
how they-
the Jaws of
Yeah.
Space. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then whoever saw that ending coming?
Right.
You know, it just when it came out,
Oh,
you
yeah.
think she's
Oh,
safe.
she
She's in the
was-
escape pod, and that creature just. And whenever it's one of those movies that when it's on TV, I always
Yeah.
keep it on, and I always, when that pot comes along, I always like to look ahead to see if I can spot where the alien is. You know, how he's tucked in the wall. I just thought that was so clever,
Yeah.
and it was just an amazing sequence at the very end.
Yes, and then most people were scared for the cat rather than her.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sure Joyce
Right.
would be.
where, yeah. Of course, you're scared for the cat.
Yeah.
You know, we're humans. Do either of you have honorable mentions that we didn't talk about, but they just like something that you're like, oh, that's scary?
Well, honorable mentions, I'll throw it right out on the table right now. I'm sure there's others, but probably one of the movies that impressed me, I still haven't seen part 2 yet, though, I have to
Okay.
admit, was It, part 1. I have to say there were some really big jumps in that movie. Again, just some of the sequences, that the crooked man in the house and the zombie outside the the house and everything on the street. I mean, there were some really frightening sequences.
Yeah.
And one of the things that made it all the more frightening were the young children that played the parts. They were wonderful. I mean, you were frightened because they were authentically
Right.
frightened. You believed them. I mean, the images were horrifying in themselves, but what took it to the next level was how they responded, and it was just very, very authentic. I could look back and see myself as a kid responding in the exact same way, and I could see myself responding that way now, you know, as an adult. But there were some real, and of course, Pennywise is as horrifying to me to this day as Tim Curry was, and he's, to me, that version still holds up.
Yeah.
When you consider it was a TV movie and when it was done, but I cannot think of the actor's name.
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes, he does a wonderful job too.
But I
He
liked
does.
that because the first movie was all about the kids, from the kids' point of view.
Yes.
And then the second one is them as adults.
Right,
the,
right.
The miniseries kind of threw it all.
Right. Yes.
all-
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Thrown at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me,
Yes.
which was it was the same summer as Alien came out,
Okay.
and I really didn't want to see this one either. But again, I got dragged along.
Right.
But I was,
Gee, Dave, did you ever
I
see
would
a
go-
movie you wanted to see when you were a child?
Yeah, I did. And this one, after all was said and done, I wasn't scared. I didn't jump, but it was a creepy one. I remember babysitting all through that summer and seeing the commercials on TV, and I really didn't want to see it. Was The Shining, but just the creepy commercials with the snow and the way the camera was going through that maze, and you saw Jack Nicholson.
that's
and the
true.
whole thing,
Yeah, that's true.
And then seeing the movie, I said, yeah, okay, it was pretty good. But my brother is a huge Stephen King fanatic, so that was another one right after seeing Alien. I'm pretty sure that one came out Labor Day or probably at the end of the summer, so that was another one. Shelley Duvall with the axe coming through the door.
No, there's some wonderful sequence, and just I remember it's something I don't remember when I first saw it in the theaters, but I've seen it since on TV. Is just the quietness of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The lack of the score of a musical score.
Yeah.
In that big empty hotel. I think that was brilliant in itself,
Right.
approaching it that way.
And then Scatman Crothers.
Scatman
was one of
Crothers.
he was one of the best character
Yeah.
actors that we had,
Was
and just
wonderful.
seeing him, and he had The Shining as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And then poor little Danny with the red rum, and the whole
Poor Danny.
Yeah.
poor Danny.
Yeah. No,
The sequel is great too with Doctor Sleep.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet
that was-
either.
that
Really?
was very good. Yeah, very well done.
With
You know,
and
I did catch a glimpse, I should say, of only a glimpse, and the only reason I held it on, I was channel surfing or whatever. I don't know how I came across it, but I saw the scene of Danny in the bar with his father, and I had to do a double take because whoever they got to play Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
not so much the voice, but the appearance.
Right.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
quite impressed. Yeah.
The book was fantastic, and they did a very good job putting it on the screen.
Yeah, because it's been years since I've read The Shining, but I remember there was a lot of fun parts of the book that you expected in the movie that it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was my main
Well, I know
problem with
Stephen
it.
King was upset about that whole
Yeah.
thing too. He didn't want that director.
And then there was a TV movie that came along. It was years back, and
Oh yes, there
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
they tried to make it more closer to the book, but it just lacked the
I don't remember that.
the
version,
movie.
so if
Yeah,
it's not a
the movie
better-
still had too much of an impression on me.
Yeah,
the
right.
the Kubrick movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did either of you see? This is very. I'm reaching even for me. I just remembered it as we were talking. Have you guys seen Blair Witch?
Yeah.
The Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
At least know the okay. When that came out, it was very different, right?
Mhm.
One of the first
The
found
beginning
footage.
Found footage. Yeah, those
movies.
movies. Yeah.
Did you guys know that they did a Scooby-Doo thing with that?
No.
No. It was on I want to say it was on Cartoon Network, but this is one of those things that I remember seeing on TV and being like, what the hell was that? They did it. It was like between Cartoon Network and Adult Swim.
Okay.
So towards as the night as the creatures of the night begin coming out, Cartoon Network switches to Adult Swim and they
Right,
show more mature
Sure.
shows. And no one knew it was going to come on. And it was this it was an ad for Blair Witch, but they replaced the characters in Blair Witch with the Scooby-Doo characters.
Okay.
And so, yeah,
Oh.
check it. It's on YouTube.
I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah,
Oh.
check it out, and it ends with Shaggy in the corner, and Josh,
On the topic of Blair, since you brought it up, I know what an impact it had on
yeah,
these found footage films that came out, by the
Do you think that's a good
by
thing?
the dredge.
Because
dredges.
I can't stand those movies.
I watched Blair Witch Project, and I have no idea what people raved about. And the same thing with that other one, the paranormal.
Oh yeah, those
Activity?
paranormal activity. movies.
Paranormal Activity.
It's like
it
watching
was,
paint dry.
It's like exactly.
I'm sorry,
it's
but
it's
it
like
is.
watching hours and hours of your friends' home movies that you don't care a darn bit
Yes.
about,
Yep.
and all that stays in my memory to this day is the ads for it, how they pushed it,
Yeah.
showing people jumping
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
seats,
Yeah.
and I didn't jump in my seat once. I was bored out of my skull. At the end, there was a couple of really cheesy effects that they
In
performed, probably
paranormal?
with fishing line, and
Talking
it
about
was
Blair Witch or
Blair.
Paranormal?
Paranormal
Activity?
activity, and it was like they stole my money. I think that was one of the times I ever saw a film. That and why can't I think of the other movie that really upset me? That these people just stole my money, and that was one of them. Yeah.
Well, watching Blair Witch in the theater,
Yeah.
you could hear a pin drop. There was nobody speaking, and
Really?
the place was crowded. Everybody's staring.
Were they asleep?
And that was that was in the back of my mind. But as we were all watching this, I'm saying, gee, the commercials showed, like you said,
Yeah.
people were jumping out of the,
No
killing
one's
one
jumped
another.
yet.
And nobody's jumped yet. And then at the very end, everybody just kind of got up.
and
There was no, how at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
usually, oh, what did you
Wow.
think? Oh, that was great. No. Just
Yeah.
dead silence. Everybody got up like zombies and walked out of the theater. And I said, that was horrifying. It was stupid.
It's like, is there anybody out there that really thought that movie was scary? I know
No.
you see them all on film
Yeah,
jumping.
you see the girl.
Were they
in the-
actually seeing that
I don't
movie?
even know what the
I
hell
wonder.
happened. The girl's in the corner of that little shack, and that was that.
How
And I'm
horrifying
saying,
is that?
What's
Yeah.
that all about? What are they trying to say?
And, to this day, I can't see a single portion of that movie that would cause anyone to jump. Yawn perhaps, but not jump.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time. Well, one of the all-time worst.
I'm trying to think of the other movie that I got so mad about. I think you disagree. Did I mention this to you before?
It could be,
Samuel
because I
L.
know-
Jackson was in it. He was the villain. It was the blue, something blue. What was the superhero movie that came out?
Unbreakable?
No, I love that movie. It was a superhero movie. It was done like not a superhero movie, a graphic novel. He was I cannot think of the name of it.
The Spirit.
The Spirit.
Oh.
Oh my
that's not a horror
God!
movie,
No,
Dave.
it wasn't a horror. I'm just
But that just upset you.
that upset me. On the subject of
that's-
having
That's an
being
episode for a
felt that you were
whole-
cheated. Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll have to. That's an episode for a whole other series.
next
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, I like
movies
that
that you want your money back. Still, yes,
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to do that one too.
yeah. That's one of them. Oh my
See,
God!
yeah, I did disagree with you on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! And I watched this movie with my brother, who was a huge die-hard fan of any type of superhero, and it was like, I want to walk out of this movie, but I just paid $12, and so we're gonna sit it out.
Yeah.
Or it's got to get. It's got to get better than this.
You
It's
do
got to
the,
get better than this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. So, thank you guys for
Oh, this was
joining me in
fun.
this conversation
Yeah.
That was a,
of spookiness.
that was a cool
Yes.
And
Just in time for Halloween.
yeah.
There you go.
And if anyone, and I'll put the links in our video description. I'll put links for more information if people want
About
to
the films. Okay.
try to find these films through the library
Yeah.
or just look up more
As a
information.
matter of fact, I just talked myself into dusting off my copy of The Legend of Hell House and watching it tonight, as a
you
matter
go.
of fact. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another good one, if you not scary but more for fun, is What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
Oh.
my.
The original
Yeah.
movie.
The original movie.
The TV show is fun, but the
Can't
original
beat the
movie.
movie.
No, it was you that
I've
lent
seen
me.
that so many
You
times.
lent me the
Oh,
DVD.
yeah.
Yes.
And I love
That was the last time that I can remember laughing out loud. I mean, belly laughs. That was the last movie I saw that had that kind of effect on me, and I laughed more in that movie than any other movie I have ever seen. And they've done a wonderful job with the
With
series
the series.
too.
Yeah, the series is very good. But the movie, the original movie,
Oh,
it's one of my top.
Hysterical.
It is. It's a riot.
Especially if you're a fan of vampires and vampire lore, and it's just off the top, off the wall.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys can sleep tonight.
I'll
I
try.
hope you're not too scared from talking about childhood trauma.
Well, David's a baby. He'll be sleeping with the
Yeah.
light on, I'm sure. So.
I'll call my brother before I go to bed.
Oh, this was your fault. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to stray very quickly from horror to true torment. So
Such as
I
the
mean,
horror of our
the
lives.
day-to-day.
Yeah.
But
That's the scariest.
we're starting on like the lighter end of things here, because I do recall, and I don't know when it occurred or what have you, but as many people want to do, they liked Ghostbusters, and I am here to say that Ghostbusters 2 has an, to me, especially disturbing scene, right? And that actually was good enough for me to classify it as a movie I am afraid of,
Okay.
right? And it's because of the scene where they go into the subway. I don't know if you kind of recall, or whoever's listening, maybe if you recall this, but there's a scene where now Bill Murray's Peter Venkman's character is gone, and it's actually Egon and Ray and Ernie's character. What Ernie Hudson's? I forget the character's name, but anyhow, they are diving into the subway under the subway. It's not the subway. It's under the subway of Manhattan. And when they do such a thing, they come upon this like old, like, I don't know, not even. It's like the railroad of the damned or what have you, and like they kind of are spooked out by it, which I was as well, right? But then like for like a jump scare, they turned around and like they're all these like heads on pikes, right? And like as a person who wasn't expecting that, and that's what I get kind of both enticed by and at the same time repulsed by, is this suddenness, this like it wasn't on my mind. I kind of, and well, actually in that movie you really weren't expecting something to scare you, right? It was more like ha ha,
it's Ghostbusters,
right?
man.
I mean, in the first one, did Slimer scare anyone? No, but they're in this library and Slimer's there and is kind of more of a funny thing. And Ghostbusters 2 kind of followed suit. You know, they had that, I think you might recall when they're in the courtroom and like the ghosts are coming out and they're zapping them and what have you. It's kind of meant for like, right? And I didn't, and it wasn't so much that it was scary. Like you can look at something like that today and be like, it's actually just like, you know, like kind of like that backdrop of like people with pikes heads, you know. But it was the suddenness of it. Like it came out of nowhere, you know, like, and that for one is actually to me good, like scary, in the sense that the person knew what he was doing to evoke that response, right? But at the same time, it sticks out with me, kind of like that Punky Brewster. I think I had mentioned this to you, but Punky Brewster, like this childhood show which never had like a scary movie ever or an episode, and then like all of a sudden there's this one episode where it's like, you know, you're not even thinking like, hey, they're going to scare the bejesus out of me today, and they have like talking skulls and big spiders, and you know, it just, that suddenness is what really gets you.
So for you, it's not like the creeping, you know something's going to happen, boom, then it happened. But for you, it's the,
well, no, but here's the thing: it's kind of like
delve into the psyche of Bob.
That is the thing, though, because the monotony is, I think, kind of the beauty of what horror really should be, because that's life. Life is horror because of just how monotonous and like Alfred Hitchcock was very good at playing off of this. Everyone knows that there's a bomb underneath this guy's seat, right? And that guy doesn't know, right? So everyone has that almost like, I'm in on the secret. I'm in on the, like, I know this guy is going to perish if he doesn't get out of there. Hey, get out of there, right? And that guy is oblivious up until that 1 second or that one instant or whatever you want to call it, where no, you know, you didn't get up fast enough. Sorry, you know. Can we do a redo? No, you can't. You're blown up now. Yeah, and that's what I think. Like, but a lot of, I think, of creative minds have to keep that almost that like dual nature in them, because they have to think like, hey, you know, I know that the horror of this is everyone knows, right? But I have to like make it so that everyone knows that this person doesn't know, right? And it's going to be a surprise, right? And that in that like that instant, as I say, is where that like, and it doesn't have to just be horror per se. It can be anything, like, you know, the surprise of, you know, what they call love, or what, you know, like that moment. That's it. That's like the one thing that everyone else knows, but that
Right.
one individual. And so, like, as an audience member, like being hit with that, almost kind of like a haha gotcha, that's really what I think some directors are doing when they're like, hey, I'm just going to use that idea in reverse, and now you are going to be the one who's just shocked for just an instant, like out of your skin. And I think that although it's not scary, because you get over it rather quickly, right? But like, it's almost that, like, how it ends up becoming a question. How did they trick me that bad? Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And that's where I think whatever emotion you want to assign to it, that's where it comes into play on both ends of that. And I think that there are some people who are better at tapping into that than others. But I think that it makes a compelling concept.
That whole...
Yeah, I gotta tell you, if you were Jimmy Fallon right now, you really wouldn't be, because like you gotta be like,
I'm listening.
Okay, all right.
I'm trying to be a good listener.
But and you know, like, and I think that people are, I mean, like the other day I had a talk with someone about the movie The Sixth Sense, right? And The Sixth Sense, I think now, you know, over the last decade or so, has become known as a lot of people for that jump scare. You know, you didn't know it. It was a twist, right?
The elusive twist.
Right, the twist. But if you watch that movie without that twist, it's still scary, right? It has moments that genuinely, like, can, like, it evokes an atmosphere. Like, I don't know if I really want to watch this movie, but I don't mind it. You know, like, it's something that's there, and it's like, okay. But it's the movie nowadays is, that's it. That's what M. Night Shyamalan, the director, that's what he's known for.
His shtick.
But if you look at it, he actually created something that didn't. I mean, the twist is integral in the storyline. Like, in the end, you kind of need to know, right? You need it to know, right? But at the same time, right, the movie shouldn't, I think, be thought of as, oh, this is, because it's an M. Night Shyamalan, it's going to be a twist.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the other thing, is a lot of his movies don't have that.
Right.
And I think that he's been, as it were, typecast, right? Because
he's the twist guy.
Right, he's the twist guy. But if you look at it, it's not always with him, it's not the case. Like, even movies that came right after Unbreakable, yes, there was like a twist, but again, it wasn't imperative to that story. Right. But he has. It's almost like, I have to throw it in. You know, like, I have to do, and that, I think, as a person with a creative bent or a mindset, actually kind of hinders them, because, like, it's like, well, you're not going to get any, like, people in the seats without it, because they're looking to see what's the next twist you can pull off, right? But at the same time, right, you have a solid movie making ability, and you didn't really need it. Like, these movies are still making money for him hand over fist, right? Like the Split series and what have you. Now, Unbreakable is the one that had, like, the twist, but again, like I said, it wasn't really like, oh my god, you know, that just, like, it was almost like I can see something is coming here, so I'm not, and it wasn't even that big of a, like, shock when you found out. But then he's got movies like Signs and what have you.
I was going to bring up Signs,
which I don't really think there was a twist. And maybe
I was about to say, I don't think exactly what you said. I don't think there was, like, you wait for it. Duh.
Right.
Nothing really comes of stuff comes of things that happen in it, but there's no like,
Right,
You know?
exactly. But I think that
you're just
like
waiting for the alien to
but
show
that
up.
but okay, and I'm sorry, but isn't that like the brilliance of some horror things?
Right.
Is that you can find a way to like build up on it and build up on it, and
Jaws, man.
and it like just never happens. But people, right, will be looking for it, like if you do it right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they're like, oh, I know that guy has another card up his sleeve.
Right.
And the guy doesn't. Right.
Right.
And then you leave a little disappointed. But it's like everything. Initially, you're disappointed, and then like if you think about it, you're like, hey, on its own merits, that movie could still stand up.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And going back to The Sixth Sense, the twist is important to the plot of that story.
Right.
But the movie itself is good even before you
Even
get
before that.
right before you get to that. Like you're not saying, oh, I needed the twist to want to watch
Right.
it. Well, like go, not even saying want to watch, but go and be able to say like with a straight face, hey, you should watch this movie.
Right.
To someone. You know, it was scary enough where it would still draw you in. And I think that, and again, going off on a little rant here, but that is where I think people almost expect too much, right? Because for one, as I think you and now your many listeners can see, there is like in reality that like built-in horror of when is it going to hit? Will it ever hit? And I think that's kind of almost the comical side
Yeah.
of horror. you
Yeah.
know?
Now, this is neither here nor there, but when Sixth Sense came out, right? This is kind of going into how movies are advertised, right? So when Sixth Sense comes out in 1999, do you remember what the advertising looked like? Because I was a youngin'. I was a young boy back then. I don't recall.
Okay, well, I'm going to.
Was the twist that they, and once word gets out that
Yes,
there's this thing,
like, but what I recall
Uh-huh.
more so is the ads like after like you know like that voice
When after?
yeah, like just shortly after like
Okay.
don't like they would be like
Shortly after.
don't tell anyone the ending, you know they're not, you can't go into the movie, like
Don't
it was
spoil.
the ads were it was almost like the marketing department got hold of it and said, hey, that's the movie. Right? We don't care about any other part of that, but how are we going to build this? And it, because it was so shocking, right? That was what they keyed in on. You know, like you can't go to the theaters and tell people, you know, what you saw, because you're going to be like, you're going to be detrimental to their sustainability in life, because they know now like what the ending is, and oh, I don't want to watch it. But that's what I'm saying, is the scary part of it was the movie itself. It wasn't, I mean, the twist added quite a bit. I'm not holding
Yeah.
anything, and I think M. Night Shyamalan broke onto the scene because of that, right? And it was like, that was what, like I just said, like
Yeah.
the marketing department was like, that's it. That's what we have to focus on. And for him, he's had to live up to that. Because like I just said, those commercials, I remember after the movie came out, then it's like, you gotta go see this, but don't spoil it, you know? And so as it goes, but I don't like think of The Sixth Sense even as a horror movie, because it was so like it
Yeah.
was scary, but
It's
it was
spooky.
but like to me it's a movie where like I'm like, I want people to watch this because I think that it was just well
Sure.
done,
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
acted. I mean, I know that Haley Joel Osment, like I don't even know if he was very young, but I don't even know, he might be dead by now.
No, he's still
right,
But he's still kicking.
but like he did a good, and kid, and I think that's another cool thing, is you gotta get it right, because kid actors, I think more often than not, just not that. It's just that like they're like, what am I doing here? And then like
That's why-
the propensity is to overact, right? And you're a kid, and they're telling you, okay, be sad right now, and they're like, they bawl their. I remember, and this is not a horror movie, so it's again on a tangent, but. The Perfect Storm. There's this scene where George Clooney goes into a car with like his son,
With his quote-unquote son.
And like the kid's like, I want you to go, Daddy, right? And it's like you needed to like tone it down like 10 notches.
Bring it down a little.
The kid would probably not even know what the hell his dad is doing. You know, like you have to leave. I don't want you to go. But like a kid probably would not be like that.
Sure.
And a lot of kids do that, but that's okay. I mean,
That's fine.
Haley Joel Osment did not. He acted, and he did a good job acting. You got the sense that when he was afraid, you
were afraid.
You were afraid,
Yeah.
and then when he like was sad or like you felt,
Mello
something.
Mello brought that up before this, during my conversation with them. Both the original with Tim Curry and the newer version with this new cast and Bill Skarsgård. The reason why I think people latch on to this story is how the kids act.
Yeah.
Those kids.
They did a good job.
I meant to bring this up. Have you seen it? Like the new one?
No.
In part one, there's a bit where they have the slideshow going of like different things that happened in Derry, like over a couple decades, and they're watching it in their in this garage, and they have everything it's all dark, and as the slideshow goes, it gets creepier and creepier.
Okay.
And like at one point it's literally just Pennywise, and he shows up and the lights go off and all the kids are freaking out. They're screaming and they're like, turn it off. And the way the kids react to seeing Pennywise on this screen and he's not supposed to be there, the way those kids delivered it was horrifying.
Really?
Like, it is really, like, you would think that someone was, like, actually, like, going to get them. Like, someone. It is terrifying.
Well,
that was one of the first trailers that they did, and I dreaded watching that movie. I dreaded going into the movie that this scene was probably going to be in the movie. It wasn't going to be cut. Knowing that I was going to have to sit through that, I dreaded it.
Huh.
And that was like the one scene, and there's plenty of other terrifying scenes in the movie.
But I'm going to go on this isn't it like almost a curiosity that you know something, right? You have like this knowledge of what will be, right? And so, and you build it up to almost mimic whatever it is you thought. So that's how come I think some directors feel, I got to get this right, right? Because this, if you don't get this right, then you as an audience member lose kind of like, you went in, you were like, that is going to scare me. That's what I'm dreading. That, right? So like, that's how come, it's almost like you had to resolve, I'm going to watch this movie in spite of that, because I want to see it, right? But you also have that like latent curiosity in you. Everyone does, where like you are going to, as they say, man up, I'm going to do it, right? And if it doesn't kind of, in a sense, meet your expectations, you kind of lose like a bit of faith in the rest of the movie, as it were. Like the rest of the movie could be gold, and you won't care anymore because you look at it and it's like, that was what I was. So you actually like the person.
Yeah.
So it's almost
I survived.
Right. It's almost it's weird how, and you say this, that like some directors, and I think the ones that are really good, right, they kind of sense this is the thing I need to hit, right? I mean, the other stuff I can kind of fidget it and move stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I said this about the movie Tenet we saw,
Yeah.
and not a horror movie, but like the director in his head, probably whatever he was told, you know, like, okay, well, this is what you have to, or, you know, if you want this movie to, like, even play in theater, and he's like, I think he's got, like, a sense of, that's where the director is so important, is he's got a sense, this is what I have to do. I can get away with all the other stuff, but I got to get these things right. And so I think in your case, and I think maybe in David Moquin's case, he didn't think that he did, you know, do that job. And so it's a little bit of a letdown, right, for you guys, because, like, I was expecting something else. And, right, but, like, that is another, like, I want to say, like, the beauty of, like, the horror is that, like, you go in expecting to be scared.
Right.
Why?
Why?
What is
Why would
what
we
is that
subject
concept?
ourselves to
right.
that?
But it matriculates through everything. I don't know how much time we have here, or if I'm
Let's
done.
do 3 more minutes.
Okay,
I'll tell you when.
Because I go to in 2007. There are actually 4 movies, and not one of them is really a horror movie. Maybe 2006. The Departed.
Okay.
There Will Be Blood.
Sure. Yeah.
Batman Begins, and No Country for Old Men. And here's what I say. I say it's the time that they all released very, very, close to each other.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
And if you think about those movies, it really should scare people. It's like and that's actually how come I look at them. And they're separate movies. They don't but like if you watch them as close as they came out, like it has a very horrifying type of idea behind it. In that like Daniel Plainview, who is like the ostensible star of There Will Be Blood, right, is this, I guess he's the idea of capitalism, as it were, right? That's I think when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, he is like this burgeoning country. He's the guy who's gonna make a buck, and that's all he cares about. He so much so that he doesn't care about his own kid. That's like kind of the crux of the movie, right? But then you have on the flip side of it, No Country for Old Men, who has a legitimate psychopath, right? In Anton Chigurh, right? Who, like, you forget how many people he kills over the course of that movie, because it's just, this person is going to meet their demise, right, at his hands somehow, or in some way it's going to come back and he's going to kill him, right? But it's the Joker in The Dark Knight that ties them together, if you think about it, because like the capitalist idea of Daniel Plainview, right, is I'm not thinking about anyone else, and it's Anton Chigurh who actually is like, I'm thinking about you all too much, right? And the Joker is kind of like this anarchistic representation of the flip side of both. When if you like think about it, because it's like, I am the real bad guy here, because it's me who dictates stuff like that, right? What is comedy? What is horror, right? A person can be watching, and the reason I say, and I throw in there, The Departed as one of those 4, because like it has like that last element of, well, who can you trust? Who is actually the good guy? And again, back to the Joker. No one.
No. Right.
And like you're looking at The Departed with like cops that have kind of infiltrated like mafia things, and the mafia who's infiltrated the police, right? And at a certain point, it's like, yeah, and then you have like the guy with the heart of gold who's like, what is it? I forget his name, but like the old cop, the old grizzly, you know. And is that the one who's Angelina Jolie's father? Or no, that's John Voight.
John Voight.
I forget who it is, but like he is, I guess, like you'd say, like a caring soul.
Yeah.
But there's only so much he can do, and he even comes out at a certain point to Leonardo DiCaprio's character is essentially like, you know, you're kind of like you're on your own, you know, right? Yeah. And when that is the horror that I talk about when I'm talking about life itself, is when you have that you have that person who you were going to get me out. Right. And like they're like, you know what? I'm trying to do everything I can for you, and I know it's not going to be enough. So you got to figure it out yourself. Yeah. Right. And that's where, in the horror sense, humanity is like this. Like, you got to figure it out, and there is no actual way to figure it out. Yeah. Right. And that is what the Joker. And that's how come and that's how come I think Heath Ledger knocks it out of the park with that. And you know, I saw the Joker with Jared Leto, and as I think I've said to many people here, if not yourself, Jared Leto did a great job at like holding a movie.
You're talking about
the Joker with not Jared Leto. I'm sorry,
Joaquin?
Right.
Okay.
Right. He needed to be a 2-hour movie. Right. So he did a great job. But if you said to me, who is the Joker? I'm going to say Heath Ledger, because Heath Ledger, he was only in the movie for what actually amounted to about 20 minutes, and yet his presence is throughout the whole movie. Right. Like, anytime you see the Batman, right, it's like, yeah, but what is he going to do to combat this?
One could even say that, and I think this would be a good place for us to end.
All right.
At the end of Batman Begins, what does he see? Do you remember what Batman's given?
I do not.
He's given a Joker playing card.
Okay.
And Commissioner Gordon says something along the lines of like, "This is your next guy," you know. So even at the end of that first one, they're setting up that idea of, you know.
Yeah. Well, right. He is.
His presence is right there.
But. And this is how come I go back. I'm sorry,
it's okay.
But
it's okay.
The horror idea of it, right, is anything even really going to happen? But it's in your mind,
right?
And your mind is what makes the scenario. And just like any scary movie, nothing could happen, right? And you need to like figure out how to deal with that nothing.
Yeah.
that hole that needs filling and yet cannot be filled, because it just as well may be your quote-unquote imagination. And on that, I will say thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I thought that this went well.
Thank you.
If anyone is out there, again, I say save me. And no one can, so it sucks.
Hi, my name is Taylor Silva. I am the young adult librarian at the Fall River Public Library. And for a special pop culture podcast, some of my coworkers and I wanted to talk about spooky movies that scared us as kids in the spirit of Halloween. We hope you enjoy and have a happy and safe Halloween.